playing days that informed you as a coach that allowed you to have success in that bend as well?
Well, I always tried to, as a coach, to treat the players like I wanted to be treated. And I learned at home that your word was your bond. And I always wanted coaches to tell me the truth. And as a coach, I tried never to even if it was hard, to tell the player the truth so he'd always trust me. And I believe any leadership role, whether it's in football or elsewhere, all people want is the honest truth. And sometimes it may not be what you want to hear, but if you're going to lead somebody, they got to know, be able to trust you.
Alabama Hall of Famer Sylvester Croom. Our next inductee was an Ohio State safety from 1999 to 2002, Mike Doss. A three-time first-team All-American, he was named the defensive MVP of the 2002 National Championship game and was the 2002 Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Mike, you are just one of 8 three-time All-Americans in Ohio State history and a 3-time first All-Big Ten selection. How did you sustain such elite success in a league like the Big Ten for 3 straight seasons?
Great question. First off, I'd like to say give all the glory to God. Thank you for this opportunity to be here amongst all these great athletes and coaches. This event is truly a blessing. I want to make sure give my Lord and Savior the acknowledgement. Thank you. To answer your question, wow, going to Ohio State, with all that talent in the room and our team, Coach Cooper recruited me. And knowing I got there, I realized I was going to have to work. You have to outwork everybody. You have to compete every day. Those players, my teammates, I knew going onto that field every day, I had to leave it all out there on the field. So every season, I just decided, I'm going to put my best foot forward and lay it all out there and got recognized for it. It was never really about the individual awards. The biggest thing for me, I know you're probably what your next question will be, was, coming back from my senior year and wanting to win a national championship. That was the most important thing for me, for the Ohio State, to be able to change our program and push us into the 21st century.
He's so good, he anticipated the next question. Hall of Famer Mike Doss. From 1969 to 1971, Toledo quarterback Chuck Ely, a first-team All-American and three-time back of the year, who never lost a game in 3 seasons as a starting quarterback. Chuck, your winning streak of 35 games still stands today as the most consecutive victories by any college quarterback. What game or moment stands out to you during that amazing streak of 35 games?
Well, I think probably one of our lowest score when we were playing Villanova, and we were had our game was pretty well tied with about 30 seconds left in the game, and we were on our 15-yard line and throw a pass down to my roommate Glenn Smith, who taught us to take a field goal and we won 13-10. So I think that was one of the big ones because we had a streak that's been going on for that period of time.
Pull that microphone over to you and answer this. You were the first MAC player to earn votes for the Heisman and led the Rockets to 3 straight bowl wins. What does it mean to you to have been the leader of Toledo's most successful era of football?
Well, it's a very honor to play with the players and the coaches that I played with at that time. It gave me an opportunity to not only be able to win the games that we won, but also to get my degree. So that opportunity came through for me, and that's what I enjoyed about the whole process altogether.
Hall of Famer Toledo quarterback Chuck Ely. From 1995 to 1998 at LSU, running back Kevin Faulk. A first-team All-American, Faulk remains the SEC's leader in career all-purpose yards and LSU's all-time leading rusher. Kevin, at a program that has seen some elite running backs, how does it feel to still hold the records for rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, all-purpose yards, and 100-yard rushing games?
With all the guys that's come from LSU, the running backs that's coming through and still coming through, it's a great honor to still have that how you say that record. But we all know that this day and age, with leaving early and being able, I was fortunate enough to be able to graduate in 3.5 years and to stay for 4 years. Nowadays, guys leave and they come back and get their diploma. So that's probably why it's still a lengthy thing for me right now.
Kevin, you're a Louisiana native, but you said when you did not grow up watching a lot of LSU football. What ultimately led you to Death Valley, and could you ever imagine yourself now looking back at anything other than purple and gold?
Never. What led me to was family. My mom always taught me about family growing up, and anytime I have a big decision to make, I always pray, ask God to show me a sign, to show me what decision I need to make, and on that decision, my sign was my oldest daughter. She was born the day I got back from a visit from Florida, and I knew I couldn't leave home.
LSU Hall of Famer Kevin Faulk. Our next honoree, Illinois defensive tackle from 1987 to 1990, Mo Gardner. The two-time first-team All-American and four-time All-Big Ten selection was described by his head coach, John Makovic, as the best player at any position in college football in the 1990 season. Mo, you're regarded as arguably the best defensive tackle in school history at Illinois. What did it mean to you to be named to the school's all-century team as an active player during your senior season?
Yeah, that's a surreal experience, particularly when 2 years ago you were on the preps team. But it really reflected more than just my personal growth. It really reflected where we were going as a team. And I think the way that we excelled highlighted a lot of players, and I was fortunate and benefited from that collective energy that really showcased us all.
You helped the Fighting Illini to a number 10 final ranking in 1989, as well as the program's first bowl victory in 25 years, completing one of the best seasons in Illinois' storied history. What stands out to you looking back about that 1989 team?
It really was. Like you hear a lot of people talk about a brotherhood, and sometimes it gets overstated, but it's a truth to it. I mean, it really is, from the guys that are the walk-ons on that team to the guys that are on the prep team to every position. And there was a synergy there with that team that I was really fortunate to be a part of, and I really was fortunate to put us in a position to really have some really strong success, and it was collective. So everybody from the coaching staff to the information staff, there was a true kind of trust, a true kind of synergy that really made us an excellent team that season.
Illinois Hall of Famer Mo Gardner. From 2001 to 2004, Illinois State linebacker Boomer Grigsby. A three-time first-team All-American, he remains the all-time leading tackler in FCS history and is the only three-time Missouri Valley Football Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Boomer, I know among your many accolades, you're Illinois State's first Hall of Fame inductee. What does this honor mean to you and to the Redbird program?
It means everything. I mean, I'm forever grateful. My family's forever grateful. I think even my university, my hometown, I mean, it's an absolute honor to be on this stage. I mean, I look around at a group of men that, you know, I think you can be a colleague and a fan, because most of them I watched on TV. And so I find it interesting listening to all the stories and just being a part of it. It just feels very special.
Now, add this up. You had 550 tackles. Remain the all-time record in FCS football, meaning you averaged double digits in tackles per game. What made you so good about finding the ball carrier and, most importantly, getting him down?
I mean, I had great coaches at Illinois State, and I think that my parents, my father had taught me about hustle and effort, and I think that's the only variable that you can control. And so, I mean, because there's other guys on the field doesn't mean that you have to let them make tackles if you want to make them all yourself. I mean, ideally, people, you know, but I think it's just kind of a tenacity that even LeVar was referring to earlier, that you just kind of want to be around the ball as often as you can.
Illinois State Hall of Famer Boomer Grigsby. Our next inductee was a wide receiver at Oregon State from 2002 to 2005, Mike Hass. The 2005 first-team All-American and Biletnikoff Award recipient is the Beavers' all-time leading receiver. Mike, after your senior year in high school, you elected to walk on at Oregon State. Going into college, what motivated you as a walk-on, and did you expect to be so successful as a walk-on?
No. The short answer is no. 6 foot, 200-pound white kid from Oregon walks on at Oregon State. I didn't expect to be here today. Let's just say that. But I worked hard. I had a lot of good people, a lot of good coaches who really taught me and made me the player that I became. So, no, I didn't expect it, but I worked hard to earn it. But that's not without everybody else's help to get there.
That hard work paid off. You recorded over 1,000 receiving yards in 3 straight seasons, which included a single-game record against Boise State with 293 yards in a game in 2004. What was going on through your head during that game, and what other games other than that one stood out in your career?
Well, when you have 293 yards receiving, you got to throw the ball a lot, so you were down. So we were losing, but they just kept feeding me and just kept making the plays. We lost that game, like I said. So the stats are great, but when you lose, it's not as great. Beating Oregon's always a good thing. I'll just mention that.
Hall of Famer from Oregon State, Mike Hass. From 1990 to 1992, Florida State linebacker Marvin Jones. The 2-time first-team All-American finished 4th in the 1992 Heisman voting, and he led the Seminoles to an ACC title and 3 bowl wins. Marvin, you were the first Seminole to win 2 major national awards in the same season when you received both the Butkus and the Lombardi Awards in 1992. What does it mean to hold that signature accomplishment at such a strong program you once said you were predestined to attend?
Well, absolutely. As a kid, my brother played there, so Coach Brown recruited him, and then from that point on, as a 9-10-year-old, I wanted to go play at Florida State. But to be able to hold those 2 awards was definitely tremendous because during that time period, I mean, I consider that the best era of college football ever. So it's great athletes, so that's quite an honor.
Throwing out some fighting words with a bunch of other people.
I can still run, though.
The Seminoles are obviously well represented in the College Hall of Fame, including your teammates Derek Brooks, Terrell Buckley, Charlie Ward, and, of course, your legendary coach, the late, great Bobby Bowden. What does it mean to join them in this Hall of Fame and have shared that legacy at Florida State with those men?
Well, it is definitely unbelievable. I even told my linebacker coach, I said, Wally Burnham, I said, hey, what does it feel like to have 2 linebackers that you coached and played together both in the Hall of Fame? I mean, I don't think anybody else, has done that yet. But, I definitely wish Coach Bowden was around, to see this. I mean, he was a great father figure, very charismatic. He was just an awesome all-around guy that really loved and cared about his players and instilled some great spirituality in all his players.
Well, I know he's looking down, very proud of it. Florida State Hall of Famer Marvin Jones. From 2009 to 2011, Stanford quarterback Andrew Luck, the first-team All-American and recipient of the Maxwell, Walter Camp, and Johnny Unitas Golden Arms Award, was a Heisman runner-up for 2 consecutive years. Andrew, after 7 straight losing seasons before you came the starter, you led the Cardinal to an astonishing 31-7 record in 3 years and 2 top 10 final rankings. What was the key to turning that program around and finding that consistent success?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's one key. In many ways, I feel like we struck gold, and I struck gold personally. I got to go this amazing place. I was a kid from Texas. I went to California. That was like exotic. This amazing school, amazing people. I think the people were the secret sauce. Jim Harbaugh recruited me. The staff was unbelievable. David Shaw, then of course, as well, and then the players. I got to play with guys from all over the country. Got to throw to amazing people. Doug Baldwin, Zach Ertz, Chris Owusu, Ryan Griff Whalen, Kobe Fleener. I mean, we had a bunch of talent. We worked really hard, and we had a bunch of great coaches. Vic Fangio was one of our coaches. We just struck gold, and we had a good time.
Aside from all the athletic awards you've received for your performance on the field, you were also named an Academic All-American, a 3-time first-team Academic All-Pac-12 honoree. We're joined by many great scholar athletes here this weekend, but talk about how you were able to find the right balance when you were playing to achieve greatness, not only on the football field, but in the classroom and developing through college.
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think it's awesome hearing about everybody basically has mentioned family and the environment that you grew up in and such amazing values and getting to play with siblings or where your brother goes and heroes. And my hero was my dad. He played at West Virginia. And I do know he didn't talk much about his career, but there was a little thing about academic All-American. And I think he was an academic All-American year or something academic. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's cool. I want to be like that. I want to be like my dad. And so I think the value of trying to do okay in school and also it was okay to want to be the best football player you could be. You know, I think that was instilled in me and my siblings early on. And it was awesome to have an opportunity to do that at Stanford.
Stanford quarterback Hall of Famer Andrew Luck. From 1985 to 1988, Michigan defensive tackle Mark Messner. A 1988 unanimous first-team All-American and 4 all Big Ten selections, still holds the record for career sacks for the Wolverines. Mark, you started every single game of your career at Michigan, and you led the team in sacks all 4 years. What do you think the coaches saw in you as a freshman that put you out on the field at such a storied program in a conference like that and allowed you to be so dominant for your 4 years?
I think they talked to my mom and said, "You're going to get a Tasmanian devil." I owe a lot of that to starting off as a freshman with having an All-American tackle on the other side, because the other teams all focused and studied how to stop Mike Hammerstein, and they left the wide-eyed Tasmanian devil alone and excelled early and got a lot of confidence. So when you're too small, not strong enough, certainly not fast enough to play the game at the defensive tackle position, you got to play with your noggin. And I was a well-studied kid when it came to the game plan, because I had to figure out how to win against a superior physical adversary.
All right, this is what we call in the business a trick question. So what means
perfect.
more to you, being named the Big Ten Defensive Lineman of the Year and winning 2 conference titles, or beating Ohio State in 3 of your 4 seasons at Michigan?
Can I say both? Playing Ohio State, that game means everything to a Wolverine. And the only time we lost was in our house when they terminated their coach. And they came out and showed what it's like to play with passion in our house. I'm sure Mike knows that from last weekend, a couple of weeks ago. We really, really wanted to win for our coaches. And that was one of the things that we loved about Bo, was we did not want to disappoint Bo.
Michigan Hall of Famer Mark Messner. From 1974 to 1977, this Oklahoma State running back Terry Miller, the 2-time first-team All-American, earned unanimous honors in 1977 and twice finished in the top 5 in the Heisman Trophy voting. Terry, you rank in the top 3 at Oklahoma State in all rushing categories. Considering the company that you at Oklahoma State at that position, you still hold records: 3 1,000-yard rushing seasons, 26 100-yard rushing games. How does it feel to still hold those records at Oklahoma State 45 years later?
Pretty amazing when you consider Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders played in the program. I'm just the old man in the group. But it was pretty exciting, and it's great to be here today.
Well, you have the records as well, so to suggest that. But you led the Pokes to the 1976 Big 8 Conference title, 2 postseason wins in the Fiesta Bowl and then in the Tangerine Bowl. What does it mean to be a part of that history, and what allowed you to be so successful against some of the staunchest defenses in the history of college football at that time?
I'm glad you mentioned that. The Big 8, as it was then, now the Big 12, was probably one of the most renowned running conferences in the era of real football, we'll say. And in order to win, it didn't matter how many people were in the box. It was going to be 22. And then you're going to say, I'm going to run right. You're going to run right, and you just play football. But I think the big thing about that is the players that played, they knew their job, they did their job, and it was a team effort.
Oklahoma State Hall of Famer Terry Miller. From 1992 to 1994, Colorado running back the late Rashaan Salaam, the recipient of the 1994 Heisman Trophy, Walter Camp Award, and Doak Walker Award, was unanimous first-team All-American after becoming just the fourth player in NCAA history to run for 2,000 yards in a season. Rashaan is represented today by his mother, Kalada Salaam Alaji. And Kalada, what does this honor mean to you and your family, and what would it mean to Rashaan?
Thank you. Well, it means a lot to all of us. It's so interesting that Rashaan has received so many accolades since he's been gone. And we thought that we had to really prepare ourselves to live without Rashaan being here. But he has received so many wonderful accolades, and this really caps it all. I didn't know anything about the College Hall of Fame, and I was so surprised. I called my son, and I said, well, what are we going to do with all of this? He said, Mom, let's launch Rashaan's foundation. And we heard from the IRS a week before we got here, the letter from them. So this gives us an opportunity to launch this foundation in Rashaan's name, so that hopefully, not just in San Diego where we're from, but all over this country, that it's about yourself, how you feel about yourself, how you treat other people. We want this to really spread some love and kindness in the programs that this foundation will support. And of course, they'll have a big athletic component to it, because that's probably the best thing that's happening right now in this country is sports, So this means a lot. It's so surreal. I asked this gentleman on my right side, I said, am I the only woman up here? He said, yes. I said, well, what, But anyway, it's wonderful. And I hope that I am really, and my son is really representing Rashaan's name well. And thank you.
From 1971 to 1973, Alcorn State center Dennis Thomas, a two-time first-team All-American and the only offensive lineman ever to be named the SWAC Offensive Player of the Year. Dennis, you beat out the legendary Walter Payton for the 1973 SWAC Offensive Player of the Year. Offensive linemen are often the unsung heroes. So what did that recognition say about you and the offensive line in general?
Well, it says that I was pretty damn good. I knew Walter, and Walter knew me, and he told me, he said, I don't know how in the hell you beat me out for the MVP award. I said, Walter, listen to me, and listen closely. As well as you could run, I could block. And remember, if I was blocking for you, you would have had 2,000 yards, my friend.
As you've gone on to such a successful post-football career, as many of the gentlemen have on the stage, as a collegiate commissioner and athletics director, what did you learn from the football field that helped you develop your leadership skills to be successful in those ventures?
It was a copious amount of intangibles that I learned from the game of football in terms of teamwork, discipline, hard work, perseverance, character, and judge people by their performance. And football set the foundation for me. Before football, my mother and father, Russell and Marjorie Thomas, set the agenda for our family. And if you didn't do your schoolwork, there was no football. There was no extracurricular activities. So they had no problem with me. But football played a tremendous part in in my administrative career as Director of Athletics and Commissioner of the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference.
Alcorn State Hall of Famer Dennis Thomas. An offensive tackle at Nebraska from 1991 to 94, Zach Weigert. Named a unanimous first-team All-American in 1994 after leading Nebraska to an undefeated season and a national championship. Zach, you were part of some of the most dominant Cornhusker teams of the 90s. Is there a game or a memory that sticks out to you above the rest? And what does it mean to be a part of such a rich legacy of football tradition at the University of Nebraska?
Well, I'd have to, every time I get any awards, it's offensive line is a team inside of a team. So I always mention Rob Zacka, Joel Wilkes, Brendan Stott, Aaron Graham, my other 4 linemen. Because without them, there is no awards. If it just have to work as a cohesive unit when you play offensive line. I'd have to say our championship against Miami would be the game, just because we lost to Florida State the year before, 2 years in a row before, and to come back and have an undefeated season and miss a field goal to win a championship and come back the next year and win it was big. So. You
had an opportunity to block for 1,000-yard rushers, and you only gave up 1 sack in 37 starts. What was the key to your dominant rushing success and the cohesion between the offensive line and the backs behind you?
Well, Tommy Frazier ran into my guy. I don't think I actually gave that sack up. I'm still arguing that. I've lost that argument for years, but he ran into my guy. But, I was very fortunate to be part of. I always say the best offensive line. We had 4 guys play pro off our offensive line. We had a really good line. If we would have had Rashaan, we played against every year, he'd probably rush for 2,500 yards. But we had some great running backs as well. But the Big 8 Conference, it's funny, they're all up here. Haven't heard the Big 8 Conference in a long time. But, Coach Osborne instilled toughness in us. Milt Tenner, my late coach, probably the best line coach. I think we have 7 Outland Trophy winners. It's just, we used to be an offensive line factory, and we need to get back to being that.
Nebraska Hall of Famer Zach Weigert. From 1999 to 2001, Oklahoma defensive back Roy Williams. A 2001 unanimous first-team All-American, he was the first player in history to claim the Nagurski Trophy and the Thorpe Award in the same year, and he led the Sooners to the 2000 national title. Roy, you were part of the rebuilding of Oklahoma's program during the Hall of Fame coach Bob Stoops' early years. How did it feel to be able to bring a program of great tradition back to being a national power and being a part of that?
Honestly, I didn't know anything about Oklahoma when I first got there, and they're rich. We are rich in history. We truly are. But I didn't know anything about it, and Coach Bob Stoops brought like Keith Jackson and Coach Switzer and all those guys around, and to be able to turn the program around. I mean, it was a great feeling because my recruiting class that had came in there, after we lost our coach. Here comes Coach Bob Stoops with all his fiery coaches. We had Venables and Mike Stoops and all those guys, and they got all up in our faces. And they pushed the limits, I'll say that. But they seen what we had in us, and we were able to turn it around. First year, 99, I think we went 7-6, and then we went 13-0, and beat Florida State the national championship. That was a great time. It was awesome. We did that.
Good thing there's.
Who do we beat? We beat Florida State. I didn't make that up. That's the truth, right? If Marvin Mims, if he didn't get in trouble, shoplifting, he could have played.
Good thing it's a big day. So we're going to continue on. I'm picking up a theme. I talked to LeVar.
We play this week. We play him this year too. Sweet.
There you go.
I'm not too confident. We'll see what happens.
I talked to LeVar about this earlier. Apparently, to make the Hall of Fame, you have to make some sort of leaping play in your career. And you had your own, Roy, when you leaped over the blocker to knock the ball from Texas quarterback Chris Sims, causing an interception during the 2001 Red River rivalry. What was going through your mind before the snap and after the ball had been intercepted for a touchdown? Big play in a big game.
Honestly, I was hoping that I knew that I was going to leave my feet. And my coach, after the TV timeout, he told me not to jump because earlier in that quarter I mistimed a blitz and I was disguising and I was not in the right position. And when I came on the blitz, the running back got me, and the quarterback ran for like 12 yards. So after that TV timeout, Coach Mike Stoops told me not to jump. But I knew that running back was 5'6" at best, maybe even 5'5", and he wasn't going to hit me high. So I was going to leave my feet, but my thing was, if I leave my feet, I need to make this play unless my coach is going to bury me underneath this stadium. So I was very fortunate enough to make the play. And literally, when I went off the field, I beelined the kickoff because I did not want to see my coach for him to talk to me. And God dang it, the very first play on offense after the kickoff, I get an interception. And I'm running off to the sideline, and my coach is just standing there, and he grabs me by the neck, and he was like, "I told you not to effing jump." So, I mean, it was a great time. I'm very fortunate to be able to have an iconic play like LeVar leaping over a player. I'm just fortunate and blessed for sure.
Oklahoma Hall of Famer Roy Williams. Our next inductee, John Lockhart, who coached at Washington and Jefferson from 1982 to 1998, and then at Cal PA from 2002 to 2011, winning a remarkable 225 games during his illustrious 27-year coaching career. He was named the Conference Coach of the Year 12 times and led his team to 16 playoff appearances and 14 conference titles. Coach Lockhart, you were tasked with rebuilding two separate football programs, leading both to some of the best stretches in their histories. What was the key to finding success during each school's rebuild?
Well, first off, I'm very, very fortunate to be on this dais with these great athletes. Jack Mollenkoff was my head coach at Purdue. He's in the Hall of Fame. He would be surprised I was on this dais. But one of the things I learned from Jack is, and I think I phrased it right, get real good players and then don't screw them up.
Coach, when you look back at your career and you look back at the players you've had to be a part of their lives, what do you hope that your impact has been on them and what they take from their time with you?
Well, I was fortunate. I mentioned Coach Mollenkoff. I was a hey you on a very good team. We won the Rose Bowl with Bob Grigsby, et cetera. 3 years in a row, we had either the Heisman runner-up or the third guy, okay? So we were blessed with great players. He treated me extremely well, considering my situation as a player. Generationally, I'd like to think that I've done the same types of things. For Coach Mollenkoff, a very small story because we've got other people to talk. I was taking organic chemistry. I had barely passed high school chemistry. And I went into Coach Mollenkoff and I said, geez, I could stand a tutor. And the guy that ran the tutor says, no, you got a C. You don't need a tutor. Jack says, if he wants an A, let him get a tutor and get an A. That was his attitude towards the education of the people that we had there. And I like to think that the generations that I've coached, the thousands of young men that I've coached in the 45 years, they understand the same importance as education has been mentioned by so many of these gentlemen up here.
Hall of Famer Coach John Lockhart. Next is the late Billy Jack Murphy, who coached at Memphis from 1958 to 1971, becoming the winningest coach in program history. In 14 seasons, he led the Tigers to 12 winning seasons, including an undefeated 1963 campaign and his first appearance and first win in a major bowl game in the 1971 Pasadena Bowl, his final game as coach. We're honored to be joined by Coach Murphy's son, Mike. And Mike, what does this honor mean to you and your family, and what would going into this College Football Hall of Fame mean to your father?
Well, this is the ultimate. It's a recognition and validation for his life's work. and we really couldn't be prouder of him. He loved the game of football, and coaching is all he ever wanted to do. And he was fortunate enough to get to do that and have an influence in a lot of young men's lives and assistant coaches, and we're just very proud of him. He'd have loved to have been here and gotten a chance to rub shoulders with these legends of the game. It would have been a real treat.
Mike, you mentioned the relationship with the coach and his players. Obviously, even with your father gone, you still get to connect with the players that he had such an impact. What does it mean to the family to still have those connections with the players that he coached?
Well, a coach's family is, they're living the experience with the coach. I mean, they're vested in the program and the wins and losses, highs and lows. And we were just tickled and honored to be there with him and to experience it and everything. And, you know, there's a lot of good things, a lot of highs and lows, and we were glad to be there. When I found out that he was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, I got a call from my sister Libby, and she was just wailing and crying, and I said, "Oh my God, somebody's died." And she finally got it out that Archie Manning had called her and that he'd been inducted, and we're grateful to everybody involved with that, and just so proud of him and proud to be here.
Well, we're honored to recognize Memphis Hall of Famer, the late Billy Jack Murphy. Our final inductee coached at Toledo from 1991 to 2000 and Missouri from 2001 to 2015, Gary Pinkel. He is the winningest coach in the history of both of those universities, the four-time Conference Coach of the Year, won 191 career games, and led his teams to 11 bowl games and one conference title. Coach Pinkel, you're one of only 3 coaches to hold the record for the most wins at 2 Division I programs, along with Hall of Fame coaches. You may have heard of them, Bear Bryant and Steve Spurrier. What did your time at both schools mean to you, and what allowed you to have such great success at both opportunities?
Well, you know, I played for Don James and coached him at the University of Washington. And I really felt when I took this head coaching job at Toledo that I really knew what we were going to do and what we're exactly A to Z, and stuck with the plan. And I was very fortunate to surround myself with a lot of good people, a lot of good coaches, a lot of Mike Alden, our athletic director, who I eventually went to when I was at Missouri. And so I've been surrounded by good people my whole life, and our plan worked. And I felt really good about it, and I also feel good that we care about our players. It's so important that we want our players to become better young men, and we did that. I talked to my players about dating, how to treat women with respect, about values. So there's a heck of a lot more than winning football games.
Coach, you said when you got the news, when you received your commemorative football letting you know you were inducted in the College Hall of Fame, you were an emotional wreck. What makes this honor so special?
You had to bring that up, didn't you?
What makes it so special, and how does it feel now that you're actually here alongside these other great inductees to be inducted?
Yeah, well, congratulations to all these guys, and I've known of you and heard about you and saw you play and things like that. It's just a tremendous honor. I didn't ever had a goal to be in this Hall of Fame. It was not one of my goals. My goal was just to win enough games, keep my job. But at the end of the day, I am deeply honored. And as I mentioned before, as football coaches, it's about everybody else around me. And there's a lot of people that we work together. And my job is just to bring it all together and become a real good football teams. And so I'm certainly tremendously honored, and congratulate all these guys too.
Hall of Famer Coach Gary Pinkel. As a reminder, following a brief photo, we'll ask the Hall of Famers to stay on the stage, and we'll take a brief photo as we conclude here. But a reminder, photos and video from today's press conference will be uploaded to the NFF Media Central page on the Foundation's website, footballfoundation.org. That page will also have video and photos from tonight's dinner as well. Here in a moment, we will allow for breakout interviews with this 2022 College Football Hall of Fame class. There's plenty of space in the back of the room, as well as the interview room and media workroom next door, and the GoGan rooms 1 and 2 for media to conduct any interviews. The workroom will be open until midnight for any working media to use. I would ask that everyone in attendance please refrain from autographs and to withhold from taking pictures with honorees until they are finished with the media. Again, we'll take a group shot with the Hall of Famers. A reminder again, tonight, the 2002 College Football Hall of Fame class will be officially inducted during the 64th NFF Annual Awards Dinner presented by Las Vegas. Begins at 7 p.m. Pacific Time and will be streamed live on ESPN3. Thanks to all of you for attending and watching today's press conference online. And as we leave, let's recognize the 2022 College Football Hall of Fame class. All right.